welcome back to the Sisters Show. We are so glad you're here. We told you guys that we're kind of in this like lovey-dovey mood for February. And so this week we are going to talk to you guys about, does the honeymoon phase truly exist? And if it does exist, is it only for once in a relationship? Can you rekindle it back? What's up with the honeymoon phase?
Yeah.
So I would like to say that I think personally, I do believe the honeymoon phase exists. And I also really, truly believe that you have to work towards keeping that spice alive. So I think that it's not that you lose or get out of the honeymoon phase, but I think being a human being, it's very easy to get in the mundane and normalcy of your life and your responsibilities. And so you kind of have to actively work towards that.
Yeah. And this topic is super interesting because me and you both are with people that we fell in love with in high school.
Which
so
is
like
crazy.
As children, like
Yeah.
as whole ass children.
Like I was a whole ass child thinking I was a grown ass woman.
So I think it's interesting because I brought it up before, like, it's a different type of love when you're 15 or 16 or 17 versus when you're 27 and 37, 47, or on like your deathbed. So there's a lot of phases and growth that you go through with a person, and the longer you've been with someone and the earlier you've been with them, the more you've seen, the more like realness you've seen. And so I think it's interesting because that giddiness of like being 16 like that is an insane feeling. Like, do you remember being like in high school and like like the butterflies you get of talking to the person for the first time and like
see their name come over your phone?
Oh my gosh, like that was such a crazy.
Imagine you could like bottle that up. I feel like that'd be like the highest drug addiction out there.
Like when you're a teenager and you see see their name pop up, or like, oh, you heard like this person was talking about you. Like, how do you even put that into words?
You can't unless you've experienced it, and that's what I'm saying. I feel like if you could bottle that up, it's like newborn smell. You just can't. So I have been married 15 years this year, 20 together, and I still can say that I get butterflies.
That's like incredible. Do you realize how incredible that is?
I think that you humble me a lot because you remind me that it's not normal.
I know,
like,
it's
the
not
norm for everyone. I think that you can take it for granted. And Sean, don't get a big head. It's not every time I see you, but I can tell you like for sure in the last like month, I can think of a time. And look, it's not like he comes in with 5 dozen roses and a Cartier, bag. It's like when I'm leaning over in the mundane in my kitchen.
I was gonna say it's actually in the most simple moments of life.
And he comes behind me and like, ooh, like I got. Do
you ever get like, because this happens to me sometimes where, so let me like rewind for a second. I am 21. I've been with my boyfriend for a little over 7 years. So we started dating when I was a freshman and he was a junior. So I was young for my grade, so I was 14. Yes, I was 14, which is literally that's Yanni. Like that's insane.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Insane. That's her nephew and my son's age.
That's insane. But
wow.
I always like, obviously being 21, when people hear that, they're like, but I really joke and say, like, honestly, the past few years have really been where I felt like we actually were dating, because in high school, like, it was just like my school was super strict, parents were super strict, so it was a lot of lying, sneaking around, like not a true, authentic dating experience, but it was what it was. And anyways, that's my story. And so what I was gonna say, piggybacking off of that, was like, there are random moments like 7 years in with one person, which I feel is a pretty long time at my age at least, where I will get like, and it's in the most simple moments where I'll get like a rush of like, I can't believe like this is my life.
Aww.
And like, I think that the more you hear about other relationships, that if you're in a really good one and like you got really lucky in certain ways, it clicks in your brain of like, oh shit, like I'm lucky in this way.
No, I totally can relate. There
And
was
I'm
a
sure
time you were doing my hair.
Yeah.
And there was a client, another person in there. We won't name names. I don't even know their name, but they were talking about their relationship.
Yeah.
And I was so like, I literally like ran into Sean's arms when I got home because I was like, wow. Like,
Yeah.
Is that what's out there?
Yeah. And like, it's crazy when you talk to people and you hear all different types of stories and relationships that people have, sometimes like it can make you really realize like, wow, I got lucky. And if you don't feel like that way, then I feel like it's time to reassess, because I truly believe, like, and I think you can agree with me too, if you're not feeling 100% like loved and happy to genuinely be hanging out with this person, like it is your best friend, your BFF, like what value does that add to your life? Honestly, what is that person doing that you can't just do with a friend? So I think that's the really cool thing, that, and I think why we both feel the way we feel like so far in still is because they're genuinely our best friends.
I always say Sean and I's marriage was forged in fire, and the fact that I met the future father of my 4 sons, my future everything, when I was 15 years old is insane. And I also find it very, very ironic that we both...
It's so rare.
Like,
it's so rare. It's
how
very
did it
weird.
happen to 2 sisters?
I don't know. It's very weird.
It wasn't like you were like manifesting, like I'm gonna marry my high school sweetheart, like Jack. Like it wasn't even like that.
No.
So it's very strange. There was just always something about this skinny Shawnee Bear with his, and they called him Remy in high school, but he was such a simple guy, and and he was a good boy. He turned bad boy because we did have like a brief breakup period because we were children. But when I first dated him, he was such a good boy. And I was the bad one. Did you know this?
Yeah, you told me this.
Okay. And I think there's also something to talk about when people say, like, you're too young to know what love is.
I don't know that I, like...
You know what I'm saying?
Yes. I don't know that I necessarily agree with that, because I think it's all relative. Did your 16-year-old self... would she be able to handle everything you went through as a 25-year-old or a 35-year-old? No. But I think, like, relative to when you're that age, and, like, obviously, yes, like, even I'll make fun of, like, kids in high school now or kids in middle school now, because, like, the boy doesn't text you back and it's like your world's ending. Like, that's, like, the last straw. So, like, I get it in that sense. I think being able to, like, love someone, I think you can still love someone at a young age. Like, I think I think those feelings can still be there. I don't know. Maybe it's because I experienced that. I know that's not like the norm.
Well, it's like, I also don't think that at 15 or 16 or 14 that we are in the maturity level and capacity to pick our future mate.
Right.
But if we go back, like our grandmother, our yaya, had an arranged marriage at 16.
Yeah.
Her first son at 17.
Which is so young.
And so when you think back to traditions and our ancestors, they were picking spouses at that age.
I know, it's insane to think about.
With that being said, there was always something about Sean.
Yeah.
And it was because he was the father of my children in the future.
Yeah. And
I do believe that God brings people in our lives, not that you only have one soulmate, and not that, like, because I know people that, like, their soulmate dies and they remarry again and they have an amazing, marriage, or you get divorced and they find their person and all that. So and your friend or your sister could be your soulmate too. You can have multiple soulmates. But I do think, and I stand by, the reason why you have such a strong soul tie and or pull or want it so bad, and I live by this, is because it's already yours in the future. So going back to 15-year-old little Jackie, I think that the reason why there was that itch there was that.
For my situation too, like, we went through a really traumatic experience super young, like with his dad dying when he was only a senior and I was a junior. So, like, I was literally a whole child, like, helping someone grieve, which honestly, like, looking back, like, I don't recommend that necessarily, but also, like, when people say to me that you guys had no idea what it's like to like be an adult or do anything, I'm like,
you were facing adult things.
Like we went through a whole ass, and it was more than just a death, but there was a lot of interconnected pieces to the story. Like I felt, which I've always joked and said, I'm literally a 40-year-old woman in like a 15-year-old's body. Like I'm just an old soul. And like there was a lot of situations where like I had to just put on like this mature adult hat, which has its pros and cons, but that was what had to be done. And like I was like, okay, we at that point we were dating for like 3 years, or like 2 or 3 years. Like I need to basically be a support system for someone, or I mean I had a choice not to be, I guess, but I chose to. And I know you can relate with certain things in your guys' relationship where like, yeah, you could have walked away in a sense, but you chose not to. You decided to stay, and like you were extremely young. Like you were in, I mean, what do I know at 21? Like I'm not just a kid, but like we barely scratched the surface of life.
I feel like I barely scratched it, and I'm 37. Yeah. But also, like, I'm an old soul.
Yeah.
You and me both are the same in that regard. Yeah. So I think that's why. I think that's why, maybe that's why we attracted and stayed with our high school. So I don't even know. But, so thinking back to high school, and, you know, you haven't dated other people.
No.
I have. I'm not missing anything. You're not missing anything, I guess is what I'm trying to tell you. But there's different moments, and in being married for so long too, because that's a kind of a big deal. I'm pushing 20 years here with that, is you do have the honeymoon stage. It still comes back in.
Yeah.
If you work towards it.
Yeah.
The honeymoon stage might not be, you know, you're on your honeymoon, but dating and having date nights and play. I can't tell you how many of my clients too, like, you have to play more. Like, get and connect with your inner child, joke, giggle. Like, I was telling you last night, Sean and I couldn't stop laughing in the kitchen yesterday. Yeah. Like, flirt with your partner. You can ignite honeymoon phases if you work towards it.
I also think that there's almost a level of, which I'm sure you can touch on too, with having kids and like Sean literally seeing you give birth and all of that, and like you seeing him at his lowest point, whatever. But there's a certain level of comfortability, which is of course necessary.
Yeah.
But you also like, you don't want to lose what made you start dating in the first place. Like you don't want to be at the point where you're so comfortable that everything is so routine and so, like you said, mundane, that it's like,
so there's a
boring,
danger there, because you're so close, but then you don't want to get too comfortable.
Right.
So I think that's also an issue.
Yeah, you get what I'm saying, right?
Course,
where it's like you want to still be able to have those moments throughout that comfortability where it's like, oh yeah, like now I get little moments of like your inner child coming out, or you guys doing something playful or fun, or just that reignites the whole basis of your relationship. And I feel like that especially applies to us, that we met them so young.
Yeah, like
that's like what our relationship was based on. Basically, it was like being a literal child and having like those butterflies of seeing the name on the phone. You should be with someone that like you feel comfortable with, and like they've seen you go through so much that you've been raw, real, and open with each other through every phase of life.
Yeah.
But you still allow yourself to have those like fun, fiery moments. Like I've told you before, like one of my greatest fears, me and him were just talking about this too, and it's become so normalized that, oh, like life just gets too busy and like you just forget. And it's like, no, because then 10-15 years goes by, you haven't been on a date, and it's like,
well, I just said this to you, that's the danger, and why you see so many divorces happening once the kids leave the house, is because you're in the trenches. And I can speak with, as a mother, saying that's had 3 C-sections and 1 normal birth, and you know, yes, there's seasons and ebbs and flows in your relationship. So you've had a front row seat again at my marriage, and watching us evolve as a couple and grow up and mature and have family shit and money shit, and you know, so it's not, clearly not rainbows and fucking unicorns all the time. But at the end of the day, when I crawl into bed with my partner, whether I hate him that night or I love him, that's my person and that's my best friend. And so I think that that's something for little sis, which I know you already know that that's your best friend, but like for any of our listeners who are dating or you're thinking about getting married, you know, that's really important.
Yeah.
And also on that note is remembering why the frick you got married in the first place. Like, we get so wrapped up in being such a good mom, and we talk a lot about personal development on here, and we talk about, you know, constantly growing and evolving as humans and all that, but you have to make sure it's work. Like I was just saying to you, like I have to actively work, not in a bad way. I'm not like rolling my eyes when I say this, but every good thing takes a little bit of work. And so like Sean and I, we're in the season now where our youngest is 6, our oldest can babysit him. He's a teenager. So we are going out. Like I mean, we're not clubbing. He would. No, I'm kidding. He wouldn't. But we're going on date nights. We're going on walks together. Like, it doesn't have to be bougie, you know, like finding those moments, even when you have infants in your life. Like I said, I'll steal your baby and shove you out the door. Because especially when you put on the different hats in your relationship, if your husband's going for a promotion or you're starting a new business, like it's not sexy.
Yeah.
But the mundane and the you can make it sexy. You can bring the honeymoon to whatever's going on. And yeah, so I don't know, I still like have sex regularly all the time with my husband. Like that's another thing I feel like is so normalized, is like hating your husband and never having sex. Big time for my age.
Big time. Yeah,
like they have sex to have a baby. That's it. And I'm like, okay.
I've told you this, like literally don't like their significant other.
Yeah, that's mind-blowing.
Like I don't understand how that,
I mean, there's days that like he pisses me off, but like there's a difference.
But him as a person, like how do you go into bed at the end of the night with someone next to you don't like? I'd be like literally uncomfortable in my own space.
Well, it goes back to you saying that the most important decision you're going to make is going to be your partner.
Most important. I like seriously, maybe I'll write a course on that.
You should.
That'd be a good course. Like I truly believe, I have this, like I'll hear random quotes and I'll write them down in my notes. Like I don't do anything with them. I hear them and I'm like, oh, I like that. I wrote one down yesterday that you would actually really like. I'll tell it to you. But I wrote one down and it was like, having the right or wrong partner in your 20s will literally make or break the entire rest of your life.
That's
like,
so true.
Everything. Your family, your career, all of it. Your financial situation, literally every little thing. And I would rather do my 20s by myself than with the wrong person, because I think it can be so detrimental. Like if you have a shitty father to your children, like you can't get rid of that. Like that is a huge decision. Like you're not just marrying a husband or a partner, like you're marrying a father as well. So like that's something to consider. And
it's also
a financial partner, someone who's going to support you in the highs and lows of your career. Like these are huge, pivotal, life-changing things that I think sometimes people don't think about. And it's just like, oh, I get along with this person, or oh,
it's also the danger of people pleasing even in your relationship choices. And then also
that's true.
If you only base your marriage on attraction alone, like there's got to be a foundation there, whether it's God, whether it's he's my best friend, whether like you have to like be compatible, right? So like there's plenty of people out there that you and I would say, oh, they look good, but like we would not be compatible, you know, long term. So it's like fire and ice too. I think like the perfect marriage that doesn't exist, but like the perfect combo is like opposites, is what I've found. Is
I could never date someone too similar to me in certain ways, because I feel like we would butt heads too much. Like, oh,
like I couldn't marry our father. I'm like, I got like this.
I know we have like the loosey gooseys. Like to marry someone too hyper independent as well, to the point where like they can't let you shine. That would be like a huge deal breaker. I don't know.
Also, to cut you off, like I always do, the strongest men are that I've seen, and not just because Sean's married to me, are low-key married to these independent boss bitches. Because they're so, not that they're arrogantly confident in themselves, but for a man
because I think
to be able to.
I think they realize
like
it makes
Joey
them
and
better.
Sean are we're like strong bitches.
Yeah, I think they realize that it makes them even more successful and even better in whatever
weak
they're
men
doing.
Can't handle.
No.
Like to the world and TikTok and Miami, they might look like they're strong alphas, but they couldn't be married to us because they would be pissing themselves.
Well, I think
they start to like
I think they start to compete, and I think a lot of men feel very intimidated. I mean, now we're going into this, but I think a lot of men feel very intimidated by strong women, and I think that I don't know why that is, to be honest, but I have seen that pattern a lot. One, being with your best friend, I think is the most important like basis foundation if you never want the honeymoon phase or that spice or whatever you want to call it to like never go away. I think being with someone that you genuinely enjoy, and like even in the little moments of life, forget the bougie trips or vacations or crazy things that you've done with your partner, like literally the everyday car rides that you have, or your morning routine, or when you have nothing planned and nothing to do and you're just at home doing nothing, and like you genuinely still enjoy their company and their presence.
There's an intimacy that happens when you get married and then when you have children that is unexplainable.
That's what I've heard people say.
Like Joey has no idea, you have no idea, as you shouldn't have an idea yet. But I will say, as someone that's had 4 pregnancies and gone through the whole birth experience, it brings your relationship to a whole
I've heard a lot of people say
dimension. Especially when you marry your best friend. Not that they didn't already worship, Sean like is obsessed with me, as he should be, but like there's a different, just like when your husband provides or your wife provides, or you see what I'm saying? Like, it's just like I got you. And like what you're saying, Sean and I have been poor, we've been rich, we've been hungry, like we've gone through all of that, and you learn every time. And I think one of the biggest pivotal moments for me, and maybe this is on topic or not, was when we first moved to the Keys and there was financial shit that was going on and a lot of growth and just a lot of shit. You had another front row seat to that. And
that I did.
Sean and I were just at it. Like we were fighting, we were angry, we were questioning our decision. We left our safety net and and did this crazy thing. And then of course the opinions of others were getting in our head. And there was this moment in that mundane and in the shit, like sitting in the suck, that we finally looked at each other and we're like, we got this. We're a team. Like whatever we need to do here to feed our children and make this work, we're going to do it. And it's like in those moments, I got butterflies. So it's like, even in that shitty sitting in the suck with my spouse, those moments, I'm not saying we didn't argue. It's not like I didn't slam doors or go to bed angry many times in my marriage. But when you work through it and realize you guys are a team and this is, we got this together, you're unstoppable. And that's why I stand by what you say as a 37-year-old pushing 40, that yes, yours, and I didn't think of this when I was your age. That's why I'm so proud of you. But your spouse changed the trajectory of your life straight up. And I'm not talking about if he's got a trust fund and he's 6'5" with blue eyes, okay? I'm talking about like knowing you have a ride or die partner. So even on the shittiest days, you're good, right?
Yeah.
I think that is ultimate wealth. There's a book that just came out. It's like top 2 right now, New York Times bestseller, and it's like the 5 forms of wealth. And they're not what you think. And of course, there's like having relationships and owning your time, not answering to clocks and bosses and all that, and health. That's another one. So I think the ultimate form of true wealth and being rich is the relationship that you have with your significant other. Like, and it's sad. I mean, it's more than half now of all marriages are ending in divorce.
Yeah.
And I also think there's danger in chasing the honeymoon stage. Like, it's totally normal too to not have butterflies with your spouse, but you can get them back. Like, don't give up. Don't try to get the girl on Tinder or go have sex with the soccer coach because like you're not getting it at home.
Yeah, I think I don't remember what episode, but I think Michael was talking about it on Skinny Confidential. I don't remember if they had it was a dating episode or what it was, but like because we now live in a world where it's so accessible to have so many options, like we always are also thinking that we can do better. And I'm the first girl that is going to be like, you deserve what you're worth, granted that you also offer something.
Right.
But like every person, every woman, like you deserve what you're worth and what you're giving to a relationship and more. But I think that because we live now in a day and age where like everything is so like, oh my gosh, I just saw literally this morning on my phone, 50% of men aged 18 to 24, which is like, I'm right in the middle of that, have never asked a girl out in person. That is insane. Like that is absolutely
That's
insane.
Crazy.
Like so they're
doing it like via social media or apps or like
texting. Or they just never have. I brought that up because like I think that we just live in a world where now it's so readily available to see everyone's relationship on social media and start comparing and seeing this girl or this guy, that we start to also,
and you're not content with like what you have,
right? Yeah. Right. Piggybacking off what you just said, like we then start to be like, wait, is there something missing? Is there something that I could do even better? I could,
like, all by design.
Right. Every like little thing that we see online, we're like, oh, my partner's not doing this, like they suck. And I think there's just a lot more to having a true fulfilled relationship than just that. And I think that just the availability of options is almost making us never content with what we have or what we've already chosen.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. You know? Yeah. And just like what you said, if you are seeing something on social media or you really are attracted to a relationship, you're like, wow, I respect that and like I like that, then you can have that too. It's not that like you have to go outside of your marriage or outside of your relationship, but be that in your relationship.
Yeah. How many like couples that you see online that like they look so happy and then like 3 months later it's like breakup post, like you have no idea
really
what goes on behind closed doors.
Social media is bullshit. I say that all the time.
Yeah, you know, like there's so many, even in my generation, so many dream couples from like the OG YouTube vlogging days, and then they get divorced, and then like they're divorced or they break up, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, I had no idea, and like this is so crazy.
They only give you the highlight
You're
reel.
like, why I believe in love and all this stuff, and then years later it comes out the reality of the situation, and it's just insane. Like the Ace family, I remember when they got, like, I used to literally watch all of their vlogs. Like I remember when she was pregnant with their first baby, it was like the biggest deal ever. They were like the couple, the family. And then all these years later it comes out like, you know, he was like going bankrupt doing like giveaways, like promising like McLarens and all these cars that he couldn't even afford them. It's like crazy because at the time you're like obsessing over them, idolizing them. This is like the goals. And in reality, like you really have no idea. Yeah. And that's a story. It's happened with so many couples. Going with the honeymoon phase, we're constantly comparing to like what we see 24/7 and knowing that in reality, a lot of these relationships, like a lot of these guys are also overcompensating in material things for their lack of being emotionally present.
Yeah.
Don't settle, ladies.
Don't settle.
That's all I have to say.
As the elder here, I will say,
stop calling yourself old. You've been saying it a lot. You're not old.
No, I don't think I'm old. 40s are going to be amazing. Me and Chloe.
I know she talks about it on the episode.
I'm like genuinely so excited, but I joke about like I don't know why I said it 50 times on this. I keep saying I'm the grandma. No,
you're not.
I'm definitely not. But I will say that it's possible for you to stay in love and have those moments of honeymoon feelings. And like I said, it takes work and finding those little pockets in whatever season you're in as a mother, a wife, a young engaged girl, whoever you are. Just never stop dating, always play, and marry your best friend. And yes, the honeymoon phase will continue into your elder years.
And we'll check back when we're like 65.
And I'm still having sex.
Yes.
With Sean.
And you can update the world on that.
I'll let you know.
Well,
when I'm actually an elder, you mean?
Yes, not when you're literally 37 years old.
I know. Perspective. I told someone like how old I was turning, and they're in their 70s, and they stopped in their tracks and they looked at me and they're like, you have your whole life ahead of you.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sad about 37, but like the point in what I'm saying is there's a 7-year-old Jackie that's gonna look at 37-year-old and be like, you're a little bean.
70. I think you said 7.
There's a 7.
I thought you were gonna say there's a 7-year-old looking at a 37-year-old thinking they're old.
But that too. No. There's a 70-year-old version of me that would look at me today and be like, girl, you don't even know what's coming. And like, and I think though that's also, you and I are the same, that I'm just getting started. I have a lot of shit to do here, and let's check if that's ClassPass. No,
it's my phone. Okay. I hope the notifications
I'm
actually
trying to get a ClassPass class. Sorry guys. But yeah, no, you know what I meant. But yeah, there is a 7-year-old looking at me thinking I'm old right now.
Yeah, a 7-year-old. Like Luke probably thinks you're old.
Oh yeah, Yanni busts my ass all the time.
Does he?
I need you to
He's only like half your age.
You need to tell him that I'm young, because he thinks like you have to always check him as your nephew.
Oh, I will.
I think he's joking.
No, he definitely is.
But like Sean will be like, I'm old, I'm too old for this, and he'll be like, yeah, you are. And I'm like, why are you even saying that? You're not even old. Like,
no.
Anyway, there's people like older than me having their first kid.
The honesty of kids is just, I love it. I'm here for it.
The unfiltered of Lukey Bear.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's iconic. We'll keep you updated on Jackie's sex life when she's like 70.
This podcast will still be, and
we'll be on episode like 5,000 probably.
Follow along.
All right, guys. We love you so much. We hope you have a great Valentine's, and we'll see you next week.